You've heard the quotes. Albert Einstein said, "The significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking that created them." It seems to take forever to commit to the obvious. Common sense often isn't common practice, and it has to do with cultural belief systems. I'm Jennifer James. I'm a cultural anthropologist, and belief systems are my specialty. Those filters that get in the way of our ability to see reality, to see what's going on, particularly in times of transition, in times of rapid change. We're facing an abyss of change. It's the deepest abyss in history, because this transition requires such complex and sophisticated skills. A lot of us feel uncertain. I ask employees, "What's wrong?" And they say, "Our managers don't know what they're doing." I go to the managers and I say, "Is this true?" And the managers say, "Yes." And I say, "Well, what's wrong with you?" And they say, "Our executives don't know what they're doing." And that's the way it is in times of transition, that we are uncertain. We need visionaries, people who can see into the future, and that's not always predictable. A lot of us feel like pioneers in a wagon on the Oregon Trail, given the amount of skills and leadership and information that we have to make this kind of a crossing. Rosabeth Moss Cantor, who writes on leadership, says if you are ambivalent, if you're confused, if you're uncertain, if you wonder if we're not going to hell in a handbasket, you're just fine. It means you're open to new information. That the people that are in trouble are the ones that think they know, that are rigid, that say, we have to do this, or that want to go back to the past. So stay open, tolerate the uncertainty. It's an important skill for the future. You have to learn to think in new ways because your work has changed. Typewriters used to do 100 words a minute. Word processors, computers do 200 words a minute. Voice-activated computers are going to do 300 words a minute. Your short-term memory can't keep up. How many of you are having trouble with your short-term memory? You walk across a room, you can't remember why you're there. You've forgotten your multiplication above 7. You're having trouble with your spelling. Someone's walking down the hall towards you. You can't even remember who they are. And they're an important client. They may even be your boss. Our short-term memory can't keep up. Imagine what it was like at the turn of the century, in a whole week, riding around your horse on your farm, how much actually came into your brain, versus driving to work now for a half an hour listening to the radio. You get some idea of just the sheer multiplication of data. And your short-term memory can only hold 5 plus or minus 2 items at any one time. You put more in and stuff falls out. Believe me, the only reason 25-year-olds can remember things is they have empty space. You have coming into your brain 400 times the data of a Renaissance man, and you have the same basic brain, because we believe that intelligence is memory. Because when we were gathered around the campfire, and we didn't even have pencils, the person that could remember the medicinal plants, who knew the oral traditions, who knew the game patterns, they were the most valuable person in the tribe. But we know now that memory is relatively low-level intelligence. We can teach primates to spell. We can teach pigeons to spell 3-letter words. We're now moving to a new kind of intelligence, information retrieval, process, strategy, the ability to problem solve, the highest use of the brain of Homo sapiens. We will have the technology to support us, but we have to change our perception. There's nothing wrong with your brain. We just have to learn to use our brains in new ways. There are 3 frames that will help you think in new ways, that'll keep you one step ahead: perspective, energy, and safety. Now, perspective, that's the most difficult one, but it's the ability to see and evaluate correctly what is going on. It's a clear sense of reality, sort of knowing what is actually out there. It requires self-knowledge, it requires an awareness of history, and an awareness of cultural information. Now, when we try and develop skills for perspective, it's difficult because so much of it is based on mythology. myths that we learned as children. Now, we're doing a lot of myth switches right now, such as Dances with Wolves, but a lot of us still have in our gut perspectives from the past. When I ask executives in corporations across America, what myth drives your sense of reality, they talk about cowboys. Now, if you look at the top three, Superman comes in third, something about the tights. But cowboys, that sort of tall, silent type. And in fact, their favorite is the Lone Ranger. But imagine, dum-de-dum-de-dum-dum-dum, imagine the Lone Ranger running your company. This is not a team player. This guy doesn't communicate. He rides into town, does what he thinks needs to be done, leaves. You have to guess what he did, and who he is. This is a guy who's pretentious. He has to have the white horse. He has to have the silver bullets. You can imagine what that cost. He wears a mask because he hasn't solved any of his past personal problems. And we have no idea what he's doing with Tonto. Yet these are the myths that we have in our stomach about leadership. And women don't fare much better. Look at the current crop. Beauty and the Beast. Now, I know there are nice things in all these stories, nice values. But still, the basic message is you can marry one of those guys and clean him up. Or The Little Mermaid. What's that message? That take your greatest gift, in this case her voice, give it up, have major plastic surgery, and you get a prince. Or Snow White, same thing, dysfunctional family, kids always relying on, looking in a mirror. She has to run away from home, her stepmother's trying to kill her, her dad's some kind of workaholic, he's never there. She ends up living with 7 small bachelors who have disturbing personal habits. She's had no assertiveness training. The end result, the witch comes to the door, offers her poison, and she says, yes, thank you very much, eats it, ends up in a coma. And how does she get out of the coma, huh? Not necessarily higher education, right? It's a prince. Princes have changed in terms of our belief systems. And so we have to change our perspective. Now, they offer us new myths, but we don't learn them because they're the myths of another generation.